And once I started trusting that process, I tried to figure it out, and I started trying to talk to various writers that I knew or came across and who I admired, especially authors, fiction authors. And I realized a lot of people have the same common process. They just write. They do not sit down and create character sketches. They don't sit down and do plot points. They have one idea or one thread, and the whole writing process is like unraveling a circle. You start pulling the thread, it all kind of comes in, and then by the end of it, realize it's one long single thread. And that's how writing is. Everybody has their own process. I think everybody needs to find their own process. This was my process. And I started practicing that in my class in FTI with the students. And I would do individual sessions with each one. And it somehow worked. It worked because it was the most productive class in the history of FTI. And each one wrote the script. The most reluctant of them wrote the script. It somehow worked. The last, my last student, I just saw his film yesterday. Para, come on. I tried to tell him that please teach me how to make films like that.
So writing is that personal process where you're sort of working it out in your own way and your. But what happens when you now have a crew, you have actors, you have cinematographer, you have locations. What is that process of communication? How do you deal with? I mean, you talk a lot about chaos and
In the beginning, it was difficult. Now it's much more simpler because it's like one person who's leaving leads me, finds me another person. So if like my first AD leaves, he gets me another first AD. And he's already, another first AD is prepared what he's getting into. And my world is built on trust. I am not a person of pre-production. So I'm not a person of a lot of prep because my filmmaking comes from a place where we had no money to make movies. And because we had no money to make movies, we never got what we wanted. So I learned that be prepared for everything. We had no money to build sets. We had no money to get properties. So properties we brought from our own homes. And somehow I realized I was watching National Geographic. And I was like, you know what? Who is stopping me to shoot in the entire city if I don't disturb anyone? And slowly, over a period of time, we evolved a process of shooting movies by following two rules. We don't put camera in a public place on ground, and we do not interfere with people's way of life. And like a documentary filmmaker meets National Geographic, we started shooting with long lenses. And we started keeping the camera away. We would shoot from, find a vantage point and shoot. In the beginning, we made mistakes, like we would go too high and all sorts of like this. So we started going away from people and probably a floor above, first floor. So it almost looked like eye level. We would put cameras in vans and open the shutter and shoot. We would shoot in the middle of the street. Like whole Black Friday we shot like that. We had no money. So that kind of and the team started enjoying the process. So and have worked with very few collaborators over a period of time. And we kind of got into that process. We respected each other's process. And I think slowly when I started working with Rajiv, he also stopped going for Reiki after 3 films. So me and Rajiv would sit and say, go there and find a location, tell me what else is available. And then it's the perspective that makes it the way it does. It's not really the location, it's how you look at a place. So it's that point of view that we started working. And me and Rajiv used to work in silence. We just somehow got, and now I've got a mini Rajiv called Kashyap. So it kind of, it's a very organic process, and where the whole team knows that they all 2013 when we had 5 films at the canvas, all made with no money.
actors. You work with mostly unknown actors. I mean, who of course have become very known
I
faces.
work with very good actors.
Yeah. How do you cast? Tell us your process of casting.
Uh, for me, it's all about like I cast based on a personality. And for me, the most important thing in an actor is here, the eyes. And the screen presence is all here. If because unlike theatre, when you're performing and you're attracting the audience, it's almost like this whole mating thing that you do. And you use your whole body language and you use voice and you use everything. In films, it's very different because your audience is sitting right there looking into your eyes. When we talk to each other, we look into each other's eyes. That's what the audience does when they're looking at it. And if the truth is not there in their eyes, then it doesn't matter how good their voice is or modulation is or what they do with their body language. So I just look for the truth in their eyes. And when I find it, I get them in. And I generally work with very good actors, so it doesn't matter because we normally don't have those kind of budgets for backing. So I look for when we have a team of, as we started with Black Friday around, we started building a casting directors team and would go and find actors who are unemployed, doing theatre, doing street shows, and we pick them and bring them in. And we kept looking for newer actors. In the beginning, this process of making a film, new actors and shooting without permission was difficult, but now it's become a norm. Like last 10 years has been easy. Since Vasipur, it's been very easy because now everybody gives into the process. Now we don't need to find actors. They kind of find us. They know if they're good. Now we don't need to find a lot of crew members and people. Everybody now comes and wants to go through the process. And because we came from chaos, so I don't know how to function when everything is in control. I remember I was shooting Bombay Velvet and first time studio film, everything was such a setup, I was so lost. So I went on the set and I created chaos. I started giving different instruction to different people. And I personally instructed everyone to do different things. And there was no coordination, there was chaos. I went to Rajiv, let's shoot.
Just to continue with the cast story, tell us how did you find Nawaz?
Nawazuddin, like I remember when I was casting for Satya. I was Ramu's film, I was the writer, assistant, casting director, everything. I was casting for the film. And there's a very good actor called Rajpal Yadav who had come to Mumbai and he was leaving Mumbai because he was very depressed and given up. So one actor called Ashraful Haq, he's passed away now. He was in Black Friday. He told me, can you just talk to this guy and give him some hope? So we met him at the railway station. Rajpal Yadav. Nawaz was carrying his suitcase. That's how I met him. So Rajpal, I said, listen, I said, I'm casting for a movie called Shul. I have a role for you. Why are you leaving the city? He did a role, one scene role of a coolie, which from where his career whole started. So Nawaz was there, he says, can I also get a role? So I said, there's no other role left. So I can put you somewhere else. He says, I have no money to eat food. So I'll do anything. So in Shul, he played Rajpal played the coolie and Nawaz was a waiter in a scene with Manoj and Ravina. If you see the very thin Nawaz. But that's how it all started. And then when we were doing Black Friday, Sarfarosh had come out and Nawaz had one or two scenes which he was very powerful in that scene. And I remembered that scene. And when we were doing Black Friday, after shooting the interrogation scene, and I was shooting the interrogation scene, and we had no uh, monitors to watch anything. And there's this assistant of mine who's also my researcher, Aparna. She's a filmmaker now. She made a film. And she was with Nawaz in NSD. And we shot that whole sequence, and Nawaz did this thing where there was this hair stuck on his tongue, which I liked very much, and I did not say cut, and I kept watching him. As I stepped out, Aparna was crushing at him. She was talking to the other girl saying, look at his eyes, he's so beautiful. So when I heard these two girls talking, I came back and I started staring at it. And then, because the room was so dimly lit, all the interrogation scenes were shot in this red light, dense red light. So I was watching him, and that's when I really saw into his eyes, and I realized, there's so much in there, and he is so invisible outside. So I liked him. I said, let's do something more. But I at that point I had no idea because my first film was banned, my second film was shelved, my third was shelved. I was the most untouchable pariah of the industry. Nobody wanted to make my movie. So I said we should keep meeting. And he didn't, in the sense he was traveling. And I started writing Gulal, and Black Friday again got banned by the Supreme Court. And we did not know anything. And at the same time, Nawaz started to do a film with Nandita Das called Firak. And I wanted Nawaz for a film and he was not available. So I got this actor called Deepak Dogrel in Gulal. And then Deepak did Omkara. It's like a cycle. Deepak did Omkara and Omkara got him the Filmfare Award and Deepak became this very big actor. And suddenly Deepak was not available. So I went back to Nawaz. And that's the same time that Deepak was supposed to do Talash and he was not available. Something else happened. And then I was looking at Nawaz, I said, I want to do this film. The idea of Asapur had started to germinate. At the same time, it was hard to sell Nawaz or to anybody, the whole cast. So I started doing what I do generally, like, build actors up over a period of films. So I said, you know what, I wanted to do a song for me in Devdi. So he came and did Emotional Atyacha. And then I put him in a song where he plays this band person. And still nobody wanted him. The studio didn't want him. The film was almost 3 days before I was supposed to shoot. It got shelved. No, this is Gangster. Devdi was on shelved for 1 year. Nobody wanted to touch Devdi either. But Wasipur, UTV dropped the film 3 days before the shoot while the whole crew was waiting. And overnight we had to find money and the shoot got delayed by 5 days because I did not want to let go of my actors. And we stuck by that. And I think what we all saw in Nawaz kind of came through. Also, Rajiv Ravi had shot a short film called Bypass. And Rajiv and me, we kind of worked very closely together. He had shot Bypass, which Amit Kumar had directed, and Asif Kapadia had produced. And Nawaz had played the lead. So Rajiv had the same faith in Nawaz. So my whole team was kind of sticking by him. And then it becomes much more easier to fight because the entire team is with you and say like we believe in it. So after that fight was through, luckily for us, after a long time, first time from India, after 7 or 8 years, India had a film at Cannes, which was Udaan. And because of Udaan and I was the writer and the producer and everything, suddenly everybody wanted to come around us. And by then, when we went into the shoot, Udaan ended up winning every award at home. That's when all the studios came back and said, we'll find Wasipur. Because I think it's always the external factors, they don't see. And then it became kind of easier. And once Wasipur came out, then there's so many films with Nawaz. The same year Kahani came out. Kahani was shot later, but it came earlier. Kahani came out, this came out, and this 2-3 films back to back, and it just, when Nawaz arrived.
Let's talk a little about Wasipur because it's sort of, in a sense, was a turning point in your career. It's really a landmark film in Indian cinema. After the Sholay and where there were all these bad guys and there were the good guys and Wasipur suddenly sort of broke new ground, not only in the way it was made, the sense of the small town, but also in this kind of trope of that we've always sort of been used to in Bollywood films. If you could talk a little about that, and where did Vasipur come from? Where did it
Because,
come from? For you, where did it
it's
come
very, I'll talk about my state of mind then. Because today it's become so much larger than all of us. It's become so huge and there's so many stories around it. And sometimes you become lost in that. So for me it was that phase where Udaan had not come out. I had just made Devti and Gulal. I had finished over 8 years, and we finished that film. And I wrote a movie that nobody wanted to produce, The Girl in Yellow Boots. For me, I needed to make that film to exorcise myself. So I started doing lots of commercials to put money together. At the same time, Vikram Motwani had to make Udan, which he has been struggling for 7 years, which Renu was supposed to shoot. And by the time it happened, it was busy. So Vikram had, and Udan, I was writing while I was shooting Gulal. So Vikram was with me on the set. I was writing the film, his film, and I was going and shooting my film. And he has been waiting around. And Vikram at that time just did not trust anybody. And he was very aggressive and angsty. And I said, nobody will produce this film. I said, she's just such a troubled person, nobody will make this film. I said, your film won't be made till I don't become a producer. I said, I won't become a producer because my films are not releasing. So just sit at home. And that was a joke, and that joke turned out to be true. Because when my films came out and finally I got a chance, and after producing Amir, I said, let's do it at the lowest cost possible, and we somehow scraped together money. That was when Udan was being shot. I met this boy. I was also, my ex-wife was doing a play which I was producing, because we had nothing else to do. And she was performing theatre, and I would stand outside as a producer, because I was standing outside as a producer, a lot of people would come with their script. And I met this boy called Zishan who played Definite in the film. And he started pitching to me a kind of a rehashed version of City of God. And I was like, I've seen this movie. And he got very offended. He said, no, this is true. I said, but this is not true. I know this is true. This is a story from Brazil. And he said, no, I'll bring it to you. I'll bring proof for you. So what happened was, next day he came to me with lots of these newspaper cuttings. And he started showing it to me. I started reading it. What he had done was, he had taken City of God as a template and picked up real incidents to fit that template. When I started reading it, I said, where is the rest of it? I said, this is such a beautiful story in itself. It's beautiful in this is because it was funny. Because these gangsters, I had never seen such idiotic gangsters. And I did not want to do an underworld film. So I said, but these people are idiots. And I was also, at the same time, so many things happened at the same time. I was free. I was amused by these people. I told him, go and do research. I want the entire story. So he said, what he gave to me was essentially part of part two. I said, I want the entire story, the whole origin, everything. I also said that because at around the same time, 2 years before that, I saw a movie called The Best of Youth. I saw it in New York. I was teaching there, and Best of Youth is a 6-hour movie that tells a story set in Italy. It uses all the political events over a period of time to tell a personal story, which I thought was very interesting. Because this was suddenly like through that one movie I understood what Italy was all about. Those are the people who, writers and people involved with that film ended up doing Gomorrah and all those other movies. But Best of Youth is this fascinating movie, and I was like, there's a chance there to tell these stories of these gangsters who fought over a strip of a road. We made the film look bigger, but Vasco is just a colony, it's a strip of a road. And over 6 decades. And through that 6 decades, I can also tell the story of North India through the political changes. That was also the same time I discovered the new Tamil cinema. I saw Parthiviran, I saw Nan Kadavul, and Subramaniapuram. And Subramaniapuram was, for me, it kind of resonated with Kashyap, because these are the people who are obsessed with cinema, and they act like the screen heroes. And Subramaniapuram had a bit element of that in the film. Everybody was like fascinated by Rajnikant and imitating it. So what all these things happened simultaneously, and I felt like there is something there. And with that belief, what is something there, I took Zishan came with a 15-page, 150-page novella that he had written, and I went with that to Madrid because my ex-wife was shooting for Zindagi Na Meri Dobara in Spain. I got a free ticket. Because I got a free ticket, I went all the way to Spain. I parked myself in Madrid in a hotel, and I sat down and I wrote till what came out was part one. And that's how it all started. And then the problem came out like I wrote such an expensive movie and we had no money. And studios insisting on casting big stars, and I did not want big stars because it was a very rooted film. And my confidence also came from watching Subramaniapuram and Nan Kadavul and all these films where these were new actors. And what Nan Kadavul did to me was I saw Banaras, where I've grown up, from Bala's eyes. When I saw Banaras from Bala's eyes, I realized Satya was Bombay from Ram Gopal Varma's eyes. And from an outsider's perspective, the city is very, it's seen very differently. So I, somehow, what it did to me was because we did not have any money, and we changed studios last moment, so I went back to where I grew up. Because my father had a lot of goodwill. I used all these years of goodwill in one film. So all the mines and everything and all the powerhouses and the house I grew up in is now ghost town. I shot there. All the everything from so I reinterpreted the story of Vasipur through my own childhood and what I saw and what I remembered. And used all my father's goodwill, and so we managed to make a massive film in that smaller budget. And all that came in was very organic because at the same time we shot in places where films were not shot. So like when we're shooting in say in a village called Aurora, and we're shooting that sequence where Sardar Khan is throwing bombs in every house, and we had very excited Sham Kaushalji who had just discovered this system of how to show bomb blasts. All the action directors get very excited when they find a new way to show something. So he was trying to say, sir, can we get 3-4 houses and all the village volunteered? मेरे घर में भी एक bomb लगाओ. So everybody volunteered, and then suddenly it's like the whole village became on set and everybody was happy about it. So we had these massive shots of bombs, bomb blasts, and this and I found out from my father I need a coal mine shot where the whole mountain is going to be blasted, and he found out and says 6 hours from here there are these massive mines and they're going to blast the entire mountain tomorrow. So me and Rajiv Ravi and his assistant, we all went all the way there and we sat there and waited for it to blast. and if you see the shot, we have used the entire duration of the shot and we missed the beginning. Because the moment it started, we put the camera on. It's the beginning, we set up the shot. So, in all the sand mining shots, they're actual in the sense, documented proof that there was sand mining happening. We shot everything. And my second unit was Shlok Sharma and Vicky Kaushal. And Vicky and Shlok would always get arrested for going in there and taking shots that were illegal. And all the ceiling coal shots and things that you see from a distance, from a tele camera, they're real things happening. You would wait there and watch them and shoot them. So it all came together somehow. We had no clue what it will become. And
I would like to ask, there's a kind of masculinity in that phase of your filmmaking, which one is seeing is now kind of changing with time. Can you talk a little about that? And really, Wasipur, all these films are really,
all the films,
yeah.
all those films are very representative of the world I came from. Because the world I come from is extremely patriarchal. But once you step inside the house, there's a matriarch there. But it's inside the house. So it's like both are pretending to be like my grandmother would be like, will you do whatever outside the house? inside the house I'm the boss. So my grandfather would always sit in the porch. He would never step in because he had no stay there. So he would stay out and he would smoke a hookah and pretend to be like the boss of the house and he was scary to us. And but inside it was the grandmother who was like take care of her. So that's what I did with the film. In the film. So like inside the house, he's scared of Magma. Outside the house, he's all macho. But when it comes to, he just did not know how to stand up to them. And I just kind of took that and translated into it. But slowly over a period of time, what happens is the world has gone through so much change and it starts to change you as well. I have a daughter who's been growing up, who's the next generation, who questions everything, who sits with me and talks about everything. I had a partner who would like question all things I would have done in the film. And I faced that a lot of time because in the beginning when I was making Baby, everybody was like, all the men were like, what kind of a world is this? What kind of film it is? There's a women who stood up for the film. And it came from them. And you have to listen. Because they're coming from a place. They're coming from a place. And if you really see, and if you want to see, you will see. So I think it's the people around you that change you over a period of time. It's like it doesn't matter how much you change. This time and again, there's something that will come out of your mouth or some action of yours, and somebody will point out that, see, there's still a little bit of patriarchy left in you. And they start pointing that out. And that's how slowly it chips away. Because it's a conditioning from the childhood. But you can't hold on to it because you think this is a different system.
So you are conscious of this. You are
I'm very conscious. I'm very conscious, and I'm very like aware of it when somebody points it out. And I also see it around me, and I know now today if I see where it comes from. I see it in my family. I see where it comes from. I see it very deeply entrenched in my family. And my word, and when I'm banned today, I can't go back to my home because, but it is there.
Mm. What about just to sort of change tracks, music? You saw Kumati yesterday and you said, my God, that
Yeah,
music.
Kamaki is
So,
one of the most incredible music I've heard.
so you know, music is such an essential part of your film. Songs are such an essential, and of course, soundscape, of course. But just a little bit about uh, your use of music, the importance of music. Also, because it's a question because a lot of people in the West, where you are very highly accepted, a lot of festivals, etc. This whole notion of the Indian film with music is very puzzling.
No, but it has happened gradually because I could not make movies without music. When I started to make movies, I love music. On the other side, when I started doing my first film, there's so much pressure about what music do we have. And I wrote a script that actually had no music initially. And it wasn't supposed to be a rock band in Punch. It was supposed to be people who were part of a Shadi Wala band. But you know what happened? I was desperate to make a film. So I was like, okay, fine, let's compose music. I did not know where I'll put the music in the film. So the songs were composed. And songs were composed based on, I said, okay, let's make them a rock band because I could not still uh, come to this place where suddenly my actors start singing. So they had to be a singer. So which is why every time I've done a lip sync song, the actor is playing a singer or something. Otherwise, and that's why Nawaz does an emotional texture. And I started using music as a part of a background narrative because I could not bring myself to do that. If suddenly somebody starts singing and becomes and so everybody, because they had to be human beings with their flaws first, and which is why my heroes don't suddenly become machos and heroes and things like that. So it started with that. And my first film, literally, it was like, okay, fine, let's get done with your songs and then I'll start my story. So, which is why you see four songs back to back and then the film begins. And then Black Friday, there was no such pressure, which was very good for me. And then I realized that I needed to use this in a way where my films can get made and I get to do, what I wanted to do. So Piyush Mishra became my biggest weapon when I was doing Gulal. A lot of things I wanted to say, I used his songs and his poetry because he's primarily a poet and then a singer and then a musician. So it became very poetical poetry, and I made him, and he doesn't want to be a poet or a singer or musician. At that time, he wanted to be an actor. So in exchange, I had to give him a role. His role was not part of the script, but he said, "I will not give you my poetry and I will not compose songs for you if you don't make me act." So then I was like, "How do I make him act?" Then we had to devise a way to use him in a way where he becomes the poet in the film, and it's his voice. And so because he got a role to act in, he composed the music. And we made this film over a period of time. And in that process of Gulal, I figured my ways of doing things. And then when the film so panned, and I kind of went through a very bad divorce because, and I did not have a home to stay. So that's when I went to USA because I got a teaching job. And in the USA, I met a musician who took me to these underground music sessions where I discovered Brooklyn Kawali Party. There were like a bunch of 17 Polish musicians singing Nusrat Fateh. Then I met lots of these bands and I saw a lot of underground music and I was like, you know what, there's something happening there. And I met this musician called a singer Shilpa Rao. And I told Shilpa, you know, I've heard this eclectic music there. And most of them were people from India and Afghanistan and Pakistan. And she said, yeah, we also have a scene like that here. And that's where Amit Trivedi came. And that's when I met Amit Trivedi. And he was also a Rahman fan who was playing the college circuit. And secretly, all these musicians get together and jam. Yeah, all of them. Everybody was a singer, and Amitabh Bhattacharya wanted to be a singer. He didn't want to be a songwriter, but they had no other songwriter, so he ended up being a songwriter. So I think that's how all of it came together, and we were all outcasts and outsiders, and so it was easier for us to get together at that time. And then because I can't sing, so and because I really did not know much about what mainstream music did for films, I was willing to experiment and listen to new things and listen to newer people. And all those new people also comes in because we didn't have budgets for established people. So also in the beginning, you know, casting new actors, getting newer musicians and newer technicians was because established people cost us a lot of money and we did not have budgets. So it can be over a period of time, it kind of created a system where a lot of people kind of started coming in together. Also, all of this happened at the same time alongside PFC. And PFC was the block that kind of brought all filmmakers together. So all of these things happened between 2005 to 2010. And that's when I think somehow a lot of minds came together. That's where I found Vasan Bala, Kevan, Anand Gandhi was writing, Chaitanya Kamane was there, everybody was there. And that kind of a blog post changed the scenario. Everybody was an individual voice. Nobody was like iconizing or idolizing anyone else. They all spoke their mind and it became a platform where we met actors, musicians, everything. So that phase was very eclectic.
And then to ask you about Thelma, suddenly you come to Bombay Velvet, which is of course a debatable film, let's say. But you worked with the greatest, one of the greatest